I've fallen in love with someone else.
Years later, the entire kingdom would remember that night as the moment Prince Ethan Ashford destroyed his own future with his own hands. But at the time, no one in the grand ballroom realized it. They saw only a man leaving the wife who had stood beside him for 15 years in order to be with a younger woman. They thought they knew exactly how the story would end. They believed Catherine would be the one who lost everything, while Ethan would continue his glorious life without ever paying the price for his choices. Were wrong. When Ethan stepped onto the main stage of the gala and publicly announced that his marriage had been over for a long time, whispers immediately spread throughout the hall. People looked at Catherine with pity, while Sophia Whitmore stood beside the prince, wearing the expression of someone who had just won the most important battle of her life. But what hurt Catherine the most was not Sophia's presence, nor was it the divorce papers placed into her hands in front of hundreds of guests. What hurt her most was realizing that after 15 years together, Ethan still believed she did not deserve to know the truth until the very last moment. She stared at the papers in her hands for a long time. The words gradually blurred before her eyes, not because she was about to cry. On the contrary, her tears seemed to have run dry months earlier during the silent dinners, the increasingly brief conversations, and the countless times Ethan looked at his phone more often than he looked into her eyes. "How long have you been planning this?" she asked. Ethan remained silent for a few seconds before answering. "Longer than you think," Catherine nodded, "and I was the last person to know." It was not a question, it was a fact. Sophia gently tightened her grip on Ethan's arm, as if to assert her place beside him. Catherine noticed and let out a soft laugh. "Don't worry, Lady Sophia. I don't fight for things that no longer wish to belong to me." The smile instantly disappeared from Sophia's face. A few minutes later, Catherine signed the divorce papers and walked out of the ballroom without looking back. No one knew that it would be the last time Ethan would see the woman who had quietly stood behind him and protected him for 15 years. 3 months later, Ethan and Sophia's life seemed perfect. The media constantly published photographs of them vacationing at luxurious resorts. Sophia quickly became a familiar face at every royal event. Ethan believed that he had finally achieved the life he truly wanted, until the crisis began. At first, it was only a few minor economic problems. Then, major corporations announced layoffs. Prices rose. Unemployment increased rapidly. Public dissatisfaction spread across the country. In previous years, whenever a crisis emerged, Ethan was praised for handling it with calm efficiency. But this time, things were different. For the first time, people began asking questions. Who had really been behind the royal family's most successful charitable programs? Who had spent months working directly with community organizations? Who had consistently appeared in disaster-stricken regions, while Ethan attended only the opening or closing ceremonies? Catherine's name began appearing more and more often in those discussions. An investigative journalist decided to dig deeper. What he discovered shocked the entire nation. For years, many of the initiatives that had earned Ethan widespread admiration had actually been started by Catherine. Numerous community support foundations had been established by her. Hundreds of letters of gratitude from hospitals, schools, and charitable organizations mentioned her name more often than the prince's. Gradually, a new question emerged. Was Ethan truly the leader people had admired for so long? Or had he simply been the face in front while Catherine quietly carried out the hardest work behind the scenes? Meanwhile, Catherine was living in a small coastal town far from the capital. She gave no interviews. She appeared on no television programs. She never spoke negatively about Ethan or Sophia, not even once. Then, one day, a powerful storm struck the region. Local residents captured footage of Catherine working alongside volunteers to deliver food and medicine to affected families. There were no professional cameras, no media teams, no speeches, just her, working. From morning until night, the video quickly spread across the country. Millions of people watched it for the first time. They saw Catherine not as a princess, but as a human being, a woman who genuinely cared about others. Support for her grew so rapidly that even media experts struggled to explain it. At the same time, Sophia's public image began to deteriorate. A series of reports revealed her extravagant spending using royal funds, expensive vacations, jewelry worth millions of dollars, lavish parties held while countless families struggled through the economic crisis. Public outrage exploded. One evening, Ethan watched a televised poll. The host asked viewers, "Who best represents the future of our country?" Catherine's name ranked first by an overwhelming margin. Ethan's name did not even make the top 3 for the first time. He felt afraid, not because he was losing power, but because he realized he might have lost something far more important. A few weeks later, he sought out Catherine. They met in a small tea house overlooking the sea. Catherine was as calm as she had been on the day she signed the divorce papers. As Ethan looked at the woman sitting across from him, he suddenly realized she seemed happier than she had at any point during the final years of their marriage. "Catherine." His voice was rough. "I was wrong." Catherine did not answer immediately. She looked out at the waves beyond the window before turning back to him. "Wrong about what?" Ethan lowered his head. He had prepared countless explanations on the way there. Yet suddenly, all of them felt meaningless. "I thought I wanted freedom." He let out a bitter laugh. "But it turns out I simply failed to recognize the value of what I already had." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Catherine spoke. "The saddest part isn't that you left me, Ethan." He looked up. "It's that you only realized someone's worth after you lost them." Her words left him speechless, because he knew she was right. A year later, the crisis reached its peak. The royal family needed someone capable of restoring the public's trust. Every poll produced the same result. Catherine, the woman who had once been publicly humiliated in front of hundreds of guests, had become the person most trusted by the entire nation. At the national year-end ceremony, tens of thousands of people gathered in the central square. When Catherine stepped onto the stage, the applause seemed endless. Many in the crowd remembered the gala from the previous year. The night everyone believed she was the loser. The night Ethan believed he had found happiness. The night Sophia believed she had one. But life often writes endings very different from the ones people imagine. Ethan chose Sophia, but the kingdom chose Catherine. And in the end, that was the choice that truly mattered. Because in life, a person's value is not determined by what they possess, but by what they quietly give when no one is watching. Reputation can be built through praise, but respect is earned only through kindness, sacrifice, and sincere actions over time. If this story made you reflect, leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Ethan truly regretted losing Catherine? Or did he simply regret losing everything she brought into his life? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss more emotional and meaningful stories like this one. Thank you for watching.